Alright, so today we're going to be talking about one of the hardest hitters in the game for sure, and somebody who sells buffs so much that they basically get around 100% crit rate by themselves. And today we're going to be talking about Yanqing. So today we're going to be talking about basically Yanqing's best teams, light cones, relics, all that type of stuff that you need to know in regards to building Yanqing. So if you're enjoying the Honkai Star Rail content, make sure to leave a sub and a like on the video. And I also do Genshin and Honkai Impact as well, so if you like those games, make sure to sub for that as well. But Yanqing is definitely one of the hardest hitters in a very good starter, 5-star. In all honesty, I do think he's gonna get some play in the future just because he sells buffs so much. You're able to maximize as much crit damage as you possibly want just because he gives himself so much crit rate. So let's go over basically his skills, and then we're going to be talking about the character himself in regards to his light cones, his traces, his relics, and all that type of stuff, and his best teams. Because the thing about Yanqing is that you definitely want to have the right teams for Yanqing, just because he does have a passive that is, I guess you could say, contingent on if you get hit or not. So you want to make sure that you're building a team around that, but we'll be talking about that in a quick second. So basically for Yanqing, his basic attack is just a regular hit. As always, there's not really a lot of units that have any type of passes to deal to their basic attack, so it's not that, crazy to look at. Now the thing that you really want to worry about is his skill, because his skill is going to be proccing his passive, and the passive is the number one thing you want to make sure you have on Yanqing, and the main reason why you want to build a team around Yanqing, which is his Soul Steel Sync. So whenever you use his skill, you're going to be doing damage, and then you're also going to be getting the passive, which is Soul Steel Sync. Now we're going to skip over the ultimate for a second because we do need to talk about Soul Steel Sync. Now Soul Steel Sync is going to be giving you a bunch of buffs when you use it, and this is when you use your skill. So the first buff is that you're less likely to be attacked by enemies, which is going to overall help with Soul Steel Sync because you do lose this if you take damage, which is the reason why we're going to need a certain team to take away aggro and also be able to shield Yanqing so that he doesn't take any damage, so that way he keeps his Soul Steel Sync. But other things that you get from his Soul Steel Sync is that you get your crit rate increased by 16%, you get your crit damage increased by 18%, and you have a 50% chance of dealing a follow-up attack, which actually can freeze the enemy by 65%. There are actually a lot of cool things that you could do with this. And then the frozen target can't do actions, and also they receive an additional 30% damage equal to Yanqing's attack. So yes, there's a lot of cool things that come from his passive, and also you do lose it, like I said before, if he receives damage. So you do want to have a shield on Yanqing, and there's certain units that don't work with him so well because they actually give Yanqing taunt, so we got to talk about that in a quick second. For his ultimate, now this is going to be very important. You do want to make sure that you have the Soul Steel Sync on because you're going to be getting some buffs for your ult. When you do have it on, you're going to be giving your crit rate increased by 60%, that's static, and then when you have the passive on, you actually get an extra 34% crit damage. So yes, you're going to be hitting a lot harder if you have this passive up. And if you want to know if you have the passive up, you can look under his icon when you're in battle, and it has that bird with the glowing circle. That's how you know that the passive is up and you haven't taken any damage. And then once these buffs are applied to Yanqing, you're going to be getting a big number at the end, and especially because your crit rate is going to be increased by 60%, you're also getting crit rate from your Soul Steel Sync, which is 16%. You're going to be around 70% crit rate automatically, and then you get an initial 5, if I'm not wrong, from your regular, I guess you could say, relics, and then you can get more from your substats. You're gonna be around 100% basically easily, and you do get some other buffs from your actual traces as well. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this dude. He does a lot of self buffing and a lot of damage just because he gets so much out of it. Now the one thing that's also really good is his technique, because you are able to increase your damage for 2 turns when the enemy's HP is higher than 50%, which is going to be most of the time if you're fighting harder enemies. So yeah, Yanqing has a really good kit, really overall really sync worthy kit, but we got to talk about his teams to be able to use Yanqing with, because this is very important, because you don't want Yanqing to get hit, so you want to be able to keep his passive as much as you can, and there's certain characters that can do this. So Yanqing, of course, you're going to need a buffer because that's going to help him do crazy amounts of damage. So you're going to want Bronya or you're going to want Ting Yun. Those are going to be 2 really good units to have on the team. And then other than that, you're going to want to make sure you have a shielder. Now you're going to make sure you probably want to have Fire MC, because Fire MC not only applies shield to your whole team, but he also takes taunt over all the enemies. So yes, you're going to be saving Yanqing from getting aggro because he is going to have the Soul Steel Sync on, which is going to make him have less likely a chance to get attacked. And then if your Fire MC is taunting, then 100% all the enemies are going to go for Fire MC and not really go to Yanqing, which is the main thing you want. And then you want to put the last one as a healer. So Bailu or Natasha is really good for Yanqing, just so that you can heal Fire MC, so that they can heal anybody else that's getting hit, so you don't have to worry about dying or anything like that. Just because Yanqing buffs himself so much, Tingyun or Bronya are really good just by themselves to be able to buff him up, because he already does so much to himself. So having those two are just going to make it even better. I do think Bronya, of course, is going to be the #1 because it's going to allow Yanqing to have more turns, do more damage. This is going to be the main thing that's going to be really good with Yanqing. You're going to get more chance to get those follow-up attacks. You can get more chances to get those attacks in. So yeah, Bronya is absolutely amazing for that. If you don't have if you don't have Bronya and you don't have Tingyun, then you're probably going to want to put Austin here just so you can get more speed in for Yanqing so that he can attack more. You just don't have any type of buffer that you could possibly put on here into this team, and that's mainly how Yanqing's team usually functions. Now let's go ahead and start talking about his light cone. Now, of course, his better light cone is going to be the River Flows in Spring, just because you're going to get additional speed and damage for entering battle, but you do lose the buff when you get hit. But to be honest, it makes a little bit of sense. If you take damage, you're going to be losing your buff anyway and lose a lot of your passives that you would have gained if you kept Soul Still Sync on. So this is not that bad in all honesty. You're just going to have to worry about, if you take a hit, you're going to lose a lot of damage because you're going to have to wait till the next turn to come out so that you can use your skill and regain the passive, which, to be honest, this isn't that bad. Of course, there are other things you can run. Sella's signature is just overall broken as a, I guess you could say, a light cone, so that is also a thing. Another cool thing, because Yanqing does do really good in boss DPS just because he buffs himself so much, Su Shang's is really nice too, because when you hit the same target, you're going to be doing damage dealt increased by 8%, and then it stacks up 5 times, so you are going to be getting a 40% increase in damage if you keep attacking the same unit, which just honestly is a really good light cone. And then for the other one, Subscribe for More, the damage increased by your basic attacking skill are really nice, but in all honesty, you're going to want to make sure that you're using your ult the most because you get so much out of your ult, so this is not the best 4-star you could possibly get. Now, in terms of 3-star options, because I know a lot of people want to use them, and for the most part, a lot of them aren't really crazy to use. The only one that can help a lot more is the Darty Arrow. This is the only one that actually works out because you get an attack increase, but only for 3 turns, so that sucks. Usually in some other paths, you have unlimited turn stuff, and it helps out a lot more. But when you defeat an enemy, your attack increases for 24%. So if it's a boss with ads, make sure to take out the ads, then you get your increase. I don't think the speed one is worth it, nor do I think the crit rate one is worth it in all honesty, because the crit rate one expires after 3 turns after the battle, and then this one just gives you speed. Speed is important, but I do think Yanqing gives a lot more value to attack with how much crit value he has by himself. So yeah, you do want to run either the Darting Arrow, any of the 4-star ones that are not Subscribe for More, because Subscribe for More only helps with basic and skill. You might want to use Su Shang's, his own signature one that's a 4-star, or Sella's, so you might want to make sure you're looking after those. Now, in terms of traces, he does get a lot of cool stuff, especially because he gets speed increase off of crit hits. He gets more damage when he has fighting enemies with ice weakness, which is the main part you're going to be using it for. When Soul Still Sync is active, effect rest is increased by 20%, so it stops you from getting burned. All these other effects that can happen on you. So these are some really cool things that you can have if you level up his traces. Now for his relics, of course, you do want to run the ice damage set, because not only are you going to be getting ice damage by 10% for the 2-piece set, but you're also going to be getting crit damage increased by 25% when you use their ultimate. So yeah, not only does Yanqing have so much crit damage and crit rate given onto him, the Relic set also helps with that, because it also increases your damage and also increases your crit damage when you use your ultimate, which is when you're going to be buffing your crit rate and crit damage anyway. So yeah, these are some really cool things you could be running on them. You want to prioritize speed, crit damage, attack, and you also want to make sure you have that ice damage boost on your planetary ornaments or whatever they're called. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff that you can do with these relics, especially with how much extra substats they give you and how much extra crit value they give you. You're basically going to be at around 100% crit rate and a fat ton of crit damage. Now, this is pretty much how you play Yanqing. Yanqing is pretty easy when you have the right team, especially when you use Fire MC, taking away the taunt from other characters, when using healers to make sure that those characters don't die, having Bronya, Asta, or Tingyun helping out, Asta giving speed, Tingyun giving attack and ultimate recharge, and then Bronya giving your turn back and ultimate and crit damage buff. So yeah, there's some crazy things you can do with Yanqing. You want to make sure you don't get hit. You want to make sure you build your team around not getting hit. So Yanqing can do his thing. He can get his crit damage, his crit rate buff, and not get attacked. So there's all these things that you can do with him. But other than that, that's pretty much it for his guide. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if it helped out. I have some other guides posted as well for Well and Sell at the moment. I will be making more in the future. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. See you on the next one, and peace.